Hey guys, Cay of Burn 1, Shadowverse Evolved channel, as always bringing you another deck profile, this time on Machina Haven. This list is the current list I've been tinkering with a little bit, and I've been having a lot of fun. This list is very much about outvaluing your opponent and having your guys stick to board so you can make big swings, and you have ways to cheat out Techno Lord for only 2 play points in this list, along with the Lemonia, which is a one-sided board wipe to give you those huge tempo swings when you need it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It does keep me motivated to make videos like this, and especially if you like content like this, it lets me know that this is what you want to see more in the future. With that being said, let's just get right into the deck profile. Alright, so here is the deck itself. We'll kind of just jump right into it and I'll explain as we go along here. First of all, our first one drop, Mecha Gun Wielder. Obviously, we're playing Machina, so we have to play this one drop. It summons a assembly droid or repair mode token into our EX area, but 99.9% of the times you'll be summoning a repair mode token, as you need those tokens in your EX zone to make Lemonia's Evo cheaper, as well as a way to cheat out Techno Lord for only 2 play points later on. It has the last word discard Machina trait card to draw a card as well to help with a little bit of the consistency, but it's just one of our better one-drop plays, along with Saintly Core here. It's not the best one drop in the world, but it's kind of like you might as well be playing it in this list because we need the Machina traits as well as this lets us cycle through our deck a little bit. There are some occasions where maybe you'll whiff, but it doesn't come up too often, honestly, but it is kind of scary sometimes when you slam in this card on one and you do whiff. But it's fanfare is look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Machina card from among them and add it to your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, and then you can tap this and bury this card to put a repair mode token to your EX area. Activate this ability only if you have 2 Machina followers on the field. It's pretty easy to go ahead and get the double Machina followers on the field in the mid portion of the game. So like this will be pretty easily to just kind of bury off, but you got to keep in mind this only looks for followers, not other Machina cards, so you can't have multiple Saintly Cores on the board and help count towards that 2 Machina followers essentially. But this is just another way, one, to cycle through cards in your deck, as well as get an extra repair mode token into your EX zone, because it's quite important to get those repair modes in the EX area. Our Knuckle Nun is a 2/3 ward that summons a repair mode on play, and on last word it summons another repair mode token in the EX zone. Machina trait follower, we need to be playing this. Wards in this list do matter because we do play Robo Falcon, which helps us, kind of end our opponent's life through like 1,000 little cuts. Every time they have to deal with a ward attacking them, it'll deal an extra damage because of Robo Falcon. So the fact that this card has ward is really good, as well as if our opponent wants to chip us early on, we have a lot of wards that kind of just stop them from doing that to help keep our life total up, which is quite important in this meta. Heretical Sister is a 2-drop 1/3 with ward, and then has fanfare, draw a card. But if you have at least 5 cards in your EX area instead, you can search your deck for any card and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. What's crazy powerful about this card is that when you do the search, you don't have to reveal what card you pulled to your opponent, which is really nice, so you can kind of hide some things from your opponent if need be. Otherwise, this is just a card that adds incredible amount of consistency to the list that helps you once you get to the point where you have 5 tokens into the EX zone. You can drop this and search out for Lemonia if need be, or the other 2-drop spell we'll be looking at in a bit, that we can sack 5 of those tokens to summon a 6 or lower cost Machina card onto the field from our deck, which will obviously be Techno Lord every time. Otherwise, once again, this is another consistency tool. If you do have to play this on turn 2, for example, because this is your only turn 2 play that actually makes sense, you still get to replace this card, which isn't the worst, but obviously we're looking to abuse the 5 cards in EX area to be able to search for the exact card when we need it. This is essentially, we get to play a 1/3 ward and then summon something else that it'll cost 2 more, so like Lemonia will cost 5 essentially if you play this into Lemonia, which feels really good, and then you can Evo Lemonia to blow up the opponent's side of the board and be left with 2 powerful followers for the most part. Robo Falcon, a very important card. It has Storm. This is another way where we end our opponent's life through 1,000 paper cuts essentially, because it has a Storm. It's a 1/3. A lot of the times this does strike effect will come up quite often, because on strike you put a repair mode token to your EX area, and then if you have at least 3 cards named repair mode token in your EX area, this follower gains +1. So a lot of times this will actually be swinging for 2 damage. But on the Evo side, which we do play 2 of, on Evo you get a summon a repair mode token into your EX area, and then still have the same strike effect with Storm as always, which means that once you create one token in your EX area. When you play this card out, it naturally forces 3 repair mode tokens into your EX area from the strike ability and on Evo effect, since you already have one in there, meaning this is going to swing in Storm for a 3/4, which is a relatively powerful follower. And if they don't remove this, this will just summon more repair mode tokens over and over again as the game goes on. You can abuse those by healing or, you know, sacking them all to Lemonia to get down their Evo cost down to 0. So it'll just be a 3-drop board wipe essentially, which is very, very powerful. And like I said, this is one of the cards we kind of push for incremental damage over time against our opponent. I play one of Robo Goblin. We have this kind of one of spot here. I wasn't really sure what to play, and I had an extra spot in my Evo deck. So I felt like Robo Goblin felt completely fine, because if we go second and we need to clear something on the board, this still comes down, Evos into a 3/3 Robo Goblin. But the biggest thing is, one, it summons an Assembly Druid token on the board, so that's like one more follower your opponent has to deal with or run something into it. Essentially, it's just kind of an added bonus, but the big thing here is on both sides of this card, you still have the last words, put a repair mode token into your EX area, which is quite important. Finally, this is one of the big payoffs for playing Machina in general, especially if you want to play the whole Techno Lord stuff. You have this 2-drop here that has 2 incredibly powerful effects. First one is you got to choose one of the following. Banish 2 cards named repair mode token in your EX area. You can search your deck for a Machina follower that costs 3 or less and summon it, and then shuffle your deck. So this is kind of like being able to cheat out Lemonia essentially for 1 less play point, which is nice, or any other follower you might need that costs 3 or less that is a Machina traded follower. But the second effect is the biggest payoff for the deck, is you can banish 5 cards named repair mode token from your EX area, then search your deck for a Machina follower that costs 6 or less and summon it, and then shuffle your deck. So you can basically summon Techno Lord for only 2 play points. And so if you're like at 5 play points, for example, 2 play points summon this, and then you have 3 play points left over to do anything else you want with. Techno Lord itself is a very powerful card. It's one of the payoffs for playing Machina as well. In general, it's a 6-drop 6/6. You banish 3 Machina cards from your cemetery, choose up to 2 of the following effects. 1 is select an enemy follower on the field and destroy it. 2, select an enemy amulet on the field and destroy it. 3, deal 3 damage to each enemy leader. And 4, search your deck for a Machina card not named Techno Lord, reveal it and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. A lot of the times when you do summon this, you'll be summoning it for the following effects of destroying an enemy follower and searching your deck for a card to replace itself. Sometimes the deal 3 damage to the enemy leader does come up. You just got to be aware, like, the next following turn, do you need that 3 damage to be able to represent lethal next turn, especially if you have some storm damage planning to come out with a Robo Falcon, for example. Otherwise, it's most of the time it's either destroy a follower or destroy an amulet, which very rarely comes up, but it can come up, and then usually search for another Machina card to replace this card in your hand, which is very, very nice. It's a really powerful payoff essentially for playing Machina in general. Next, Lemonia, which is kind of the key piece of the deck. It's a 1-sided board wipe. It's 3-drop 3/2 with cost 7 Evo, but don't let that fool you. A lot of times this will be played for 2 or less play points to Evo it, and it has fanfare. You put a repair mode token into your EX area, and then the effect itself has banish a repair mode from your EX area, then the cost to Evo is 1 less this turn. So you could banish 5 to bring it down to 2, use an effect to summon a couple more, and then banish those repair mode tokens to make this Evo cost 0 if you want. The Evo side of it is very powerful, so we do play 3 of it, because every time we see this card, we want to Evo it if possible. It's on evolve, destroy each enemy follower on the field. So you get a board wipe your opponent's side of the board, and then for 0 play points, just like a Machina follower that costs 2 or less in your cemetery, and summon it. And you can only activate this once per turn. This card, being a 5/4, after you Evo it, becomes a high priority target. They have to remove it. If they don't remove it, you'll get even more value by summoning another 2 costs over and over and over again until they kind of run out of resources to really combat your value you're playing. So the big thing about this deck is you want to play for maximum value. Things like Lemonia and stuff like that are very important to the game plan to keep presenting followers on the board till they kind of run out of resources. A lot of your games will really come down to running your opponent's resources out until you get to the point where they can't really clear everything, and then you get to swing in with your board over and over again, and they can't really keep up with the damage that way. Next, Marlone, Light of Balance. This card is relatively powerful, actually. Its fanfare effect is quite annoying for your opponent sometimes, depending on the matchup, obviously. but you put a repair mode token to your EX area and your opponent's EX area. So sometimes shutting off an EX area for them can be quite annoying if they're playing against like Insetsu and stuff, meaning they're going to get one less Fox unless they play one play point to remove that repair mode token in their own EX zone. But what's nice about this card is on the Evo side, on Evo, it becomes a 4/4 and you select the enemy follower that costs X or less on the field and destroy it, where X is the number of cards in your EX area. So a lot of times this will be removing 3, 4, and 5 cost followers quite easily. And you're here left with a 4/4 follower by the end of it. It's a really, really powerful effect, especially when you can abuse removing 5 cost followers with this card. Next, we play 2 Mecha Wing Angel. I'm going back and forth on this. Sometimes I want to play more Robo Goblins, and then other times it's Mecha Wing Angel feels pretty good. The thing about this card is it still does act as removal, because if you do have 5 5 Machina cards in your cemetery, you get to deal 4 damage by resting this card, or engaging this card, which is great. You're a ward already, so it's a ward, so you want to engage it anyway, so you'll be able to at least remove something immediately with this card if you have the Machina cards in your cemetery to activate this effect. And obviously Fanfare, you put a assembly droid or repair mode token in your EX area. Obviously we're choosing repair mode 99.9% of the time. Very solid card. I always go back and forth on how good this card is, because sometimes when you get the early Techno Lords out and stuff, this card's activated effect doesn't come up too often, but when it does feel pretty great, and at the end of the day it is still a ward. Ruby Falcon is the card of choice basically to help push extra damage when possible. Not only does this card gain Storm if we need it to, but whenever another follower that you control with Storm or Ward attacks, you deal 1 extra damage to the enemy leader, which is important. Which also means if you start swinging into followers on the board, you still get to deal 1 damage to your enemy leader, which means you get to end the game through like 1,000 paper cuts essentially until they lose the game. We do play 2 of the Evo. It's still a relatively powerful Evo, because on Evolve you get like the enemy follower on the field and deal 2 damage to it, so we can kind of ping off and remove like assembly droids and stuff like that if needed. And then it still has the pay 2 to give itself Storm, so we can get in for 4 Storm damage on top of the other followers swinging in that have Ward or Storm, dealing an extra 1 damage here or there. This is kind of the way we kind of close games out. You try to actually not push this card too much early on, because you just want to wait till there's a board state your opponent can't really do anything. It's usually after like a Lemonia turn and they weren't able to clear everything due to the Lemonia clearing their board, and you have a relatively healthy board. This comes down, you Evo it, give it Storm, swing in for 4, and then swing in with some of your smaller followers that have Ward to hit them with some extra damage here and there to kind of close out the game a little bit quicker. It's not the best way to finish the game, but I feel like it's the one that synergizes the best with everything else going on in the deck, because there's just a lot of very good value wards in the list that help you, elongate the game. On top of that, also push extra damage, because with Ruby Falcon, they'll be able to swing for extra damage if needed. Father Refinement. This card is obnoxiously good when it goes off. A lot of the times you will be drawing 2 cards depending on how the game is going. This is a 5-drop 4/4 with Rush, so it kind of acts as like 5-drop removal, because you can run into something immediately. It has Fanfare, put 2 repair mode tokens into your EX area and recover 2 play points, which is insane. But the big thing is strike, draw a card, and if there are 5 cards named repair mode token repair mode in your EX area, you draw 2 cards instead. This is kind of how we keep our hand size up a lot of our games. We're looking to play this out to essentially make sure we draw 2 every time we play this card, and not only that, we get to remove something on top of recovering 2 play points, which means we can still play something after that as well if needed, like for example a Robo Goblin, or even an Iron Knuckle Nun, or even the 2-drop search, what's her name here, Marcotte. Very strong follow-ups for this even on turn 5 when you get the draw 2 and then search your deck as well for the exact card you need. It just feels very, very good. Next, Kaede. I think we all know how powerful this card is. It's just a 3/5 ward that also banishes something on your opponent's board. And what's quite annoying about this card too is if your opponent is not careful and hits you below 5 or less, this card can just swing the game in your favor immediately, because the heal 5 and draw card is obnoxiously powerful whenever it does go off at your end phase. It can ruin people's days if they don't expect it, but I anticipate most people should be playing around this card if they're playing into Haven. But a 3/5 ward is still fairly powerful on 5 as well. That answers something on your opponent's board, and it doesn't have any requirement other than you just select the enemy follower. So as long as they don't have aura, you'll be able to banish something off their board. We play a 1 of Laplace Glorious Seraph. I like this card, not necessarily for its effect, but for the fact that it is a 3/7, which means that in the sword matchup, they can't just use Mistalina fanfare effect to remove this card. On top of this, also heals you a card, and you'll give it a prayer counter every turn, which means the longer this is on the board, means you get to draw even more cards from this when it does get removed, and it heals you 2 every turn. Incremental healing is pretty important in this list in general because you'll just take control of the game because you have too much damage your opponent will have to get through to actually win the game. The big thing about this card, like I said, though, is that the fact that it has more than 6 health, which is good in the sword matchup, which I like a lot. Though the card itself is not super amazing, but this is probably one of the cards you want to search out in the sword matchup when they're about to go into their Mistalina turns, because it makes it the most awkward for them to actually deal with. I talked about this earlier, but we'll hit on it again. Techno Lord is one of the bigger payoffs for Machina in general. Really strong card, answers most things. It's very flexible. The fact that if your opponent happens to be playing some kind of amulet, you can destroy the amulet as well if needed to. It's just a very good card in general. There's no reason not to be playing it. And finally, we play 1 Aether of the White Wing. You can do cool plays with this, like play this, summon Cay U or summon Seraph, or even summon Father Refinement, recover 2 play points, swing in, draw 2 cards, and then play another card on top of that. That's one of my favorite plays with this list, is that when I hit 7 play points, I can Aether of the White Wing, summon Father Refinement, remove something, draw 2 cards, and then play another 2-drop if needed. And for example, 2 is like you recover those 2 play points, you have Father Refinement on the board, and then you go ahead and Augmentation Bestow after you swing in with Father to draw 2 cards, and then you can go ahead and summon Techno Lord. You kind of have those explosive turns on turn 7. Sometimes when I play this list, I do think maybe I should be playing more Aether of the White Wing just for those really explosive turn 7s if need be. But at the end of the day, you do play Marcotte, Heretical Sister. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that word, but it should get you the card needed a lot of times as well. If you know you need to go into that game plan earlier in the game, you can search out Aether of the White Wing to have that ready on your turn 7 play into Father Refinement and into that. It's a really powerful play, and I really like that a lot about the list. I like that the mid to late game is all about building these awkward boards your opponent has to deal with, on top of the fact that Lemonia will be able to control either the early mid game to make sure you get into the late game to start presenting the huge value over and over again in the hopes of out resourcing your opponent to the point where they can no longer answer your board, and then you start swinging in with your guys, which will add a lot of damage over time that way. This is a really fun deck. In my opinion, it probably struggles in the control mirror if they're more hardcore control, because I feel like this is more of like a weird mid-rangey control deck instead of being more of a mid-range aggro deck. It leans more to control in general just because of the tools you have access to with Lemonia and things like that. But outside of that, the deck is a lot of fun. I'm going to be taking this deck to locals a lot more because I've been enjoying it a lot. But yeah, I think this is a really great place to start off for Machina Haven. And if you like this deck list, and let me know about your thoughts below when you play it. What cool tech are you guys playing in Machina Haven? This is a deck I want to see pop off more at regionals. I don't think it's been performing that well just yet, but I think it can get there and win a regional for sure. So yeah, if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Let me know below what crazy tech you've been doing with Machina Haven, and hopefully we'll see you guys in our next video. Later, everyone.